Hey, what's going on? JD here, and this is, of course, the Daily JD. Thanks for tuning in, guys. As always, remember to like, comment, subscribe, hit that bell button so you get notifications when we, in fact, do go live. Hope you've had a fantastic week thus far, and things are going great. The weather's been great. Might turn a little bit sour on the weekend, but ultimately it has been absolutely fantastic. I've been getting out, meeting new people, all sorts of good things. So again, enjoy the weather. It's going to be absolutely fantastic, and hopefully you have a lot of cool stuff on the go. As is tradition, you can put whatever you like in the comments. We are more than happy to discuss that. It's an open forum to discuss whatever you like. Nothing is out of bounds. Hey, good to see you, Scott. Thanks for tuning in. Hope you had a absolutely fantastic trip out east there and enjoyed the Dropkick Murphys and the parade and all that kind of good stuff, and had just a generally fantastic time. So, as is tradition, I'd like to thank our Patreon supporters. Of course, our Patreon supporters are none other than Reviewy McReviewface. His link is in the comments there, as well as we've got Josh WRB and Mum's Universe as our supporters, our sponsors on YouTube. You can check out all those guys' channels. Their links are in the chat, so please do help them out, because they do help me out month after month. They are great guys for doing that, so greatly appreciate that. If you do want to support us on Patreon as well, you can definitely hit us up in there as well. So again, if you have anything you want to discuss, by all means, throw it into the chat. I do have some talking points to talk about, some very interesting stuff going on, something that I am working on, and I haven't decided 100% if I'm going to do it yet, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Good to see you, Craftsmith. Thanks for tuning in. It is going absolutely fantastic. Hope you are having a fantastic day as well. Today, we're going to talk about Facebook, who we have not talked about in some while, but this one kind of takes the cake for me. It's one of those things that when you look at it, it's really bad. It's grade school bad security breach. They have really, in my opinion, messed this up this time around. So it's now being reported that Facebook had left open access to your passwords to all their employees. So what that means is that when you went in there and you type in your password associated with your new username, it wasn't encrypted and employees could see what it was, which to me is kind of basic internet programming protocol. Those are things that typically you encrypt. I've been doing the internet for a very, very long time, since it came out 30 years ago. I have run everything from, bulletin boards with dial-up, where you would dial in and, over your phone line, to running forums, to running things like paintincorporated.com that had a forum associated with it, that was associated with the films and mountain biking. One of the basic things that you do is you can't see anybody's password. That's just kind of how it is, period. Your software is typically always set up to do that. So if somebody would contact me as an admin and say, I don't have my password, they would get a reset key in an email. You couldn't just essentially take a look at their password and tell them what it is. That's never possible. At the very, very most, what I would call intrusive, you could maybe set a password for them, and let them know so they could log in and then ultimately change it. So at this point in time, it's looking really, really bad. I mean, Facebook has sort of come out and said that, our employees, weren't going to do anything with that information. But again, the fact that it's there, it's accessible, emails associated with passwords, it's not very good. That is a major, major security breach. Why? Because, I would say a good portion of people use the same password for virtually everything, which is a super bad practice, that you use the same password. I personally don't do that. I have a mixture of stuff. I forget my passwords all the time, so I have to get them reset, but that's besides the point. you don't have them something easy. Letters, numbers, capital letters, all those kind of things are very, very important, changing it on a regular basis. But, a lot of people don't do that. Number one, they're lazy. Number two, they think, oh, nothing's going to happen. It's protected, which obviously in this case, it absolutely wasn't. So it's really kind of curious that, Facebook had this happen, this late in the game, and it's just kind of coming to the forefront now. So, I mean, with Cambridge Analytica, now this, it makes you really kind of wonder what the deal is with Facebook. And it makes me kind of wonder why I'm on there sometimes. It's Facebook has just slowly gone downhill. And ultimately, at the end of the day, I think that, with all these security breaches, people have lost a lot of trust with them, and it's going to only get worse. But, it still exists, and it still has a huge amount of traffic. But, ultimately, again, it's one of those things. This is pretty egregious in my opinion, and I imagine it will have some effect of them on the stock market and a whole bunch of other things, especially with the outage that they experienced just recently as well. It's things are not looking good in the Facebook department. So there you have that. So the other thing that I do want to talk about is what's called the 79-21 rule. As you guys know, I like what Gary Vaynerchuk has to say. I do consume a lot of his media, bits here and there. Today, he talked about what he called his 79-21 rule, because he didn't want to call it the 80-20 rule, because there's a lot of things called the 80-20 rule. So it only makes sense that you call it something unique, which he did. So he talked about his 79-21 rule, and that's basically where to put your efforts into social media at this point. And he's talking more specifically about brands and businesses. For a lot of video creators, Instagram, there are potential with things like Instagram TV, as well as stories and doing short little bits. But as far as putting full-fledged videos on, it's not the best platform, in my opinion. Number one, shooting vertical video for just strictly one platform, it doesn't work very, very well in those regards. But what Gary is suggesting, that is, Instagram is kind of the place to be at the moment. He is suggesting that you put, if you're going to put efforts into social media, that you put 79% of your effort there at 150%, and then the other 20% you just kind of dabble in. Again, it's to kind of keep those presences, thing. And he actually, ironically enough, something that we haven't talked about in forever, is he talked about Vero, and how he still dabbles in that. So he still believes in that platform, that platform is going to come around. And again, it's one of those things that with, what's happening with Facebook and the security breaches, you might see a lot of people jumping ship, closing accounts, and, moving on to different things. Ironically enough, MySpace came up the other day because they just transferred their platform and lost a bunch of music. So all your favorite emo songs from high school are completely gone. I hate to break the news to you, but, that's essentially what's happening in that department. Hey, good to see you, Brian. What's going on? So, ultimately the rationale is to put the effort in there and growth, and putting all your eggs in one basket isn't a good thing. However, that being said, putting your most energy towards the platform that has the most effect for you is a good strategy, while still dabbling in the others. Because if there is a shift, like let's say with this recent security breach, that Facebook all of a sudden goes down, or, there's a max exodus from Facebook, that 80%, or 79 percentile of people, that's got to shift somewhere. So they're going to go to other platforms. You might not know what platform that is initially, and you've been dabbling in it, so you do have a presence there. So you're not starting off at square one. So, I mean, there is a good, plethora of sort of platforms out there, everything from Vero to TikTok to Twitter to Minds.com, MySpace, Instagram, Snapchat. You name it, there is a ton of social media platforms that are out there that are alternatives. And it's good to have, again, some sort of presence on them. At the very least, grabbing up your name or your band or your YouTube channel name or something along those lines. Because like anything in the world, when the .coms blew up and everybody was buying up .coms, if you don't get your .com right away, at the end of the day, you're kind of looking at somebody else holding it. And, a lot of people will do things like hold these things for essentially ransom and want to extract money for it. So it's a very interesting thing. I know that early on with Calgary video creators, when we were sitting around, when it was initially called YouTube Calgary, they had YouTube Calgary as a Twitter account. And I had suggested using yyctube as the hashtag. And I know that one of the guys went to essentially go register it, and it was already registered. They asked me if I had done it. I said no. And that was within a couple days of using the hashtag on the original account. So it's interesting how fast these things get snapped up. And nobody, as far as I know, even to date, has essentially used that on Twitter. So it's always good with startups, at the very least, to go over, check it out, grab your name sense, and sort of, if that's all you're going to do with it, at least you have that. At least you have it parked, so at least when you go and jump into the game, that's essentially where it is. I'm currently looking for some new Instagram handles, and I haven't found anything that I've wanted. I've kind of left it way too long because it's been out forever. I mean, obviously Paint Inc. is the main handle that I use. I just opened, and this is kind of leading on to the last thing here, is that I don't know if I'm gonna do it or not. I've been talking to Crackmax about Instagram and sort of getting my Instagram going. There's always that suggestion that curated accounts are better accounts. I'm still kind of torn on that. Much like YouTube, I kind of feel that pigeonholing yourself and making yourself one thing can only lead to heartache in the long run. For me, I would rather have a slow build and be diverse than have a quick build because I'm niche, and then get bored with that niche and then have to abandon something at the end of the day. So, I mean, it's very, very interesting because you always stand the chance that when you do things like that, you're going to, sort of alienate your audience. I mean, if you are always a rock band and you crank out rock music all the time, and then all of a sudden you release a country bluesgrass album, chances are a good chunk of your fans will be like, I don't like this, and they're going to disappear. But that's the chance that you take. Whereas if you play, sort of an eclectic thing, you might not grow as fast, but, it'll most likely not come off as something that's a mass exodus. So there you go. Hey, good to see you, Oren. Thanks for tuning in. Brian says, agreed on the slow build and diversity. Yeah, it's... for me, it's what I've kind of stuck to. It's what I will stick to, and I don't think that's ultimately going to change. I tried launching other channels. It just became, you get spread way, way too thin, in my opinion. But going back to my Instagram thing, I did register JD Durham as my new Instagram handle for another account. It's got like one photograph on it currently. So thanks for the messages as well for anybody that saw my post today. With the Instagram platform, you can now post one picture across multiple accounts. So the great thing is for me is I can post it on 2-3 different accounts, which is a good way to get reach in that sense as well, is that you're using one image and posting it across different things. You might have different audience bases. So that's one way to do it. But thanks for the messages for people that said that there's somebody that's imitating me. No, it is in fact me. It's all cool. It's all clear. It is definitely me because I use the same profile picture. And of course, it's my name versus just painting. So I'm not sure if I'm going to sort of move my personal stuff to there. I'm not sure if I'm going to make painting, strictly concert photography. I'm not going to sure if I'm going to relieve JD Durham as just concert photography stuff or what I'm going to do. But, that's kind of where my debate lies for myself. And I do have to figure it out. And again, social media is one of those kind of things. You do have to take the time to sort of figure things out. But rather than just sort of leave the name there just in case somebody takes it up, which is highly unlikely because my last name is fairly unique. I just decided to gobble it up because you never, ever know. So that's what we're doing in terms of Instagram. I've been looking for an Instagram for the collective as well as thinking about website stuff and still trying to get that moving. That is moving along. So hopefully in the near future, I will get some things going as time permits. Now, that being said, there's some cool stuff coming up. So hopefully I will see the vast majority of you tomorrow. Tomorrow, Twitch Calgary. That's why I'm wearing the Twitch hat today. It's kind of different wearing the purple. I do like it. It's subtle enough of a design in the black, and the purple is close enough to black, I guess, that it's not too much for me. But it's about as crazy as I'll probably ever go in the hat department for colors other than black. But essentially, Twitch Calgary tomorrow at Prairie Dog Brewery, starting at 6 p.m. They've got a whole bunch of stuff. They'll have caps back in stock, so if you want to support them, much as I have, because I think Steven and the Twitch Calgary crew do a fantastic job, and really promote that community, which really grateful for. I went to the first Twitch Calgary event, and Steven has always been an awesome guy, an awesome host, putting on awesome events, and anything that I can do to support him, I will most definitely do that. And hopefully I'll see a bunch of you guys. It's always been well attended by YouTubers or YouTubers/Twitch streamers, because there's a lot of people that sort of jump or have their feet in both those boats, because it's both related. So hopefully I will see you guys there. I know that for a fact, if you were looking for the $40 deal, which there's the normal RSVP, which is of course free, you could just show up. They do have the I'm trying to remember the game now. Not Battle Bros. Anyways, they'll have a tournament there, which Smash Brothers. So they'll have a Smash Brothers tournament, which will be super fun. And you can just show up with a regular RSVP ticket and do whatever you like. They also have a $40 ticket where they will get you a free drink, as well as some food, and you will get a cool Twitch Calgary sweatshirt. So for $40, which is a steal of a deal. So it's going to be a fun time. They found 4 tickets, because I think they had a limited number of tickets. So that's exciting. If you're looking for those, you can RSVP to those via Twitch Calgary and support a good cause, because like I said, they are absolutely fantastic. Guy Mitch says, "Take my drone test, I'll pay you." That's illegal, Mr. Mitch on 2 wheels. That won't happen. I think I mentioned the other day I did pass my drone test, much to my own surprise, because it is hard. I will probably do a video on it, because there's a lot to be said about that drone test. I tell you, it's something absolutely unexpected. I feel more qualified to be a pilot at this point than I am to fly a drone, which is ridiculous. So if you are flying a drone, just remember that June 1st this year is when you do need to have the license. You do need to do 2 things come June 1st, and it is coming fairly quickly. April, May, you're less than 2 months kind of away, or just over 2 months away. You will have to take the drone pilot's license test and pass it, and of course keep your license with you. The other thing that you will have to do is you'll have to register your drone. So the drones do have to be registered now. So I imagine if they find it somewhere, that they can go to the data bank, and if it's found somewhere where it shouldn't be, they'll probably just, I don't know, drive up with a police car and take you to jail probably. That's just kind of how those go. For sale, DJI Mavic on June 1st. It's too bad it's an old model. It's interesting. I think, what you are going to see, all jokes aside, is that you will see a lot of drones either show up on Kijiji for really cheap prices. So if you're into drones, it might be a time to pick up one for super cheap. I think the other thing is that you will just see people continue to fly them illegally, which, will not surprise me in the slightest. I mean, people still fly drones illegally now, and they always kind of have, because they didn't quite understand the rules, and they don't understand airspace. And, this test really, doesn't help anybody understand that, and it was kind of confusing for me at the end of the day, because I got 85%. The 15% I got wrong, I kind of know what I got wrong, but I don't really know what I got wrong, because they didn't let you review the questions or the answers or the rationale behind it, which I think is a mistake. In order to learn, I feel you have to learn from your mistakes. So if you're not telling somebody what their mistake actually is and the reasons behind it, they're not learning anything. Sending them back to read a very very long and wordy legal, sort of policy, such as the Canadian aviation regulations, which is very long. Not fun. Like, you're not going to learn, and most of it's not applicable to you. So I mean, it's kind of crazy that they've gone about it that way. It feels very much like a cash grab. For $10, to be honest, if you are, relatively intelligent, you can read, these documents, you could probably get through it. Like I did, kind of by the skin of your teeth. I had actually initially planned on taking the first one and failing it because I had no idea what questions they were going to ask, and was quite prepared to take it a second time for an extra $10, and hoping that my first experience would lead me to prepare for it properly the second time round. But I was lucky to get through it the first time round. So, if you are into drones and all that kind of stuff, just keep in mind that June 1st is the deadline for the changes. So please keep that in mind, because I don't want to see anybody, and the fines are listed there, are quite steep. It's for like not having a license. I believe it's $1,000 minimum fine. For flying an unregistered drone, it's $1,000 minimum fine. Violating airspace. Like, by the time you've added up all the charges that you would probably do, you're probably $5,000-$10,000 deep. So it is definitely worth to sort of play by the rules, because at the end of the day, if you get caught, it's not going to be a good day. And the other part of it is that, the interesting thing is going to be is that come June 1st, or even before June 1st, and it's always kind of been an issue, is that if you are flying illegally, that chances are somebody's going to complain, and next thing you know, you're going to be talking to police officers. And it's good to know that you are, good, that you have a license, that you have maps of the areas, that you can show where airports are, that you know what you're doing. And generally, they're going to leave you alone after that when they see that they know what they're doing, because most of them don't know what you can do. But that being said, pretty much City of Calgary is off limits. So just keep that in mind as well, because, unfortunately in Canada, which makes it confusing, is you have federal law. So federal law governs all of Canada, and then you have provincial law. So every province is different. So in terms of provincial parks, the policies are pretty much all the same. But I think at one point there was loopholes between, which provinces you could actually fly in a drone in a provincial park. National parks are completely off limit. That's the national law. And then on a municipal level, places like Calgary in fact has bylaws. So if you go fly in a park anywhere in Calgary, you'll get pinched because it's against the bylaw. So, at least, in a sense, at least, when you're getting pinched for a municipal bylaw, it's not a criminal offense. So just things to keep in mind. So that's kind of what I had for you guys today. Hopefully you watched the Flames video that I released on Wednesday after some technical glitches, which was kind of weird. I put the money, the video was set to release at 7 o'clock in the morning. It was released at 7 o'clock in the morning. I always watch my video once just to kind of give it a last peruse when it goes through. And I noticed that in my watch that two of the clips had somehow converted so they were horizontal, which is really, really weird. So I had to go in and re-edit those and upload them. So it came out a few hours later. But again, super fun experience. Thanks again to the Flames for a fantastic night. It was a great time. Thanks for Joel Otto for sharing all his stories. Had a good look at his Stanley Cup ring, which is in the video, which is super cool as well. So a really, really good time. Thanks for all you guys that have watched so far and left comments. And, by all means, if you haven't checked it out, please do check it out. Leave a comment and share it with your friends, because, it's a very Calgary kind of thing, the Calgary Flames. So there you go. Brian says, I haven't seen it yet. Hope to see it when I get home. Appreciate that. Yeah, it's, it's done relatively well as far as my videos go. I mean, it's, I think the Flames, very popular in the city, and anything to do with hockey is obviously very Canadian. So that definitely does help. Craftsman says, wait, you can't fly drones here in Calgary? Guess it means I won't be getting my drone license. Yeah, it's interesting. The bylaws, the way they go, you cannot fly a drone in a City of Calgary park. So any City of Calgary parks are off limit. It used to be Alberta provincial parks, you could. So Fish Creek Park you could fly, which is within the city limits, but because it was a provincial park and not a city park, it was thing. But they've changed the rules for that. If you go, when myself and Bence and Dan, we went to do our Lake Louise thing, Benson bought his drone. We were up in a couple areas that were off the beaten trail, and they had signs basically indicating it was a provincial park and drones weren't allowed. I had known that prior to going in. You know, essentially there is a small slither of space that you can sort of fly in legally in the mountains and get mountain shots, but that's essentially it. But in Calgary, yeah, no to the parks. I mean, you could fly if you are out of the range of the airport. You could fly in your yard and get kind of shots that way, which kind of limits the footage that you get. You can't fly kind of anywhere else. And it's hard anyways with the drone rules and how far you have to be away from people. Makes it difficult. Becomes an advanced operation thing, which is of course a even harder test to pass drone wise. The other thing is in Calgary is you can't fly a drone across the road. So if you cross the street or you flew it across Deerfoot or something like that, you would get yourself in a whole bunch of trouble. Because that's not permitted in the bylaw as well. But that's essentially it. I know the city of Calgary has, kind of put it out there, like where can they allow people to fly? The irony is that they have a drone park for drone testing. City of Calgary has a drone park for drone testing where companies can come that manufacture drones and test them and put them through all sorts of stuff. And the irony of all that is that at the end of the day, it's not open to the public. So if you go as a public person there to fly a drone, they will basically nab you for flying a drone there, which is absolutely ridiculous. That's government making no sense for you. So there you go. Craftsman says, damn, I want to get some cool drone shots for my nature short films. The best thing I can suggest for those, if you still want to include drone footage and, probably a more feasible way to do it and probably a more cost-effective kind of way is to use stock video. So maybe, a membership with a company like Storyblocks, which will have drone footage. It won't be exact drone footage to where you are in all cases, but it also has tons and tons of other stock video that you can utilize in there. And I think they're about $25 a month. So, I mean, you're not even at the cost of a drone after a year. You would have to, 2, 3, 4 years to sort of get to that point. There is drone footage there, and there is a fair bit of drone footage available through sites like that. It's a common thing for people to do, and it tends to do actually very, very well. A lot of it obviously dated because things like Calgary where there wasn't rules before. There is drone footage kicking around from the times before all the drone laws changed. So in theory, you can do that, and it protects you as well, because if you utilize that, nobody is not gonna know that you didn't take the footage. And if somebody comes knocking on your door at the end of the day because they see the footage and say, hey, you can't fly in Calgary, you're just like, well, it's stock footage from Storyblocks. Here's the download I did. Here's my receipts for the service. So I guess, we're done talking here, kind of thing, because you haven't done anything illegal. And, it's interesting in those regards. I can dish out free mountain footage if anybody wants very shitty shots, done illegally, of course. Well, actually, I would say your footage currently is legal. Again, you can fly until June 1st. So anything prior to June 1st that you do where you ride trails, as long as it's not in the provincial park, you can use that footage. And the thing is that if you stockpile it, and this is kind of what I recommend for anybody to do if it's going to take a bit to get the licensing, or you're going to have to ground yourself for a while, is that you go out, film tons. Most of the time, when people go out with drones, and I'm just as guilty as this, you pop it up for 5, maybe 10 minutes tops, and you're done. Run it till you've gone through your couple batteries, get tons of footage, different shots, try a bunch of different unique things. throw them into your stock footage. Myself personally, I have footage that I reuse in vlogs. It's funny. I will do certain time lapses, and I don't know if anybody's ever noticed, and I'm probably taking away some of the magic here, but I mean, I'm here to share tips on what I do. Is that I will sometimes utilize that clip somewhere else, sometimes for a shorter period. Sometimes I will change the look of it or the color coding. It will be very similar in nature, but because the last time I used it was maybe a year or two ago, and because it is not an integral part of telling the story, it's more part of that B-roll montage, is that you can essentially, get away with doing it. Only your hardest, dedicated, most hardcore fans will be like, "Ha, I saw that before. Why using the same footage?" And fair enough. I mean, like I said, I have done it in the past. One of the videos that I utilized the same B-roll footage was when we did Make a Vlog Day with Calgary video creators this past summer. I used a shot from the Calgary Tower that I had done a few years ago that was shooting down. So I shot through the glass floor and did a time lapse. If you've been to the Calgary Tower anytime in the last probably 5 years, they have that glass floor where you can kind of go down. So I basically set up a little angle pod and shot down and did a time lapse. I used it for just a second because down on the street below, there's the Mirror Public Art. I forget what it's called, but I shot, sort of the Calgary Tower, and then I flipped up to the Calgary Tower, and then we flipped down to where sort of Make a Vlog Day was, and that was kind of the sequence that I wanted. But, I didn't have that shot from the tower because we didn't go up the tower that day. Myself and Josh, we just went straight from the car park to the event. So ultimately, at the end of the day, utilizing that stock footage, and that's why it's important. That's why it's good. It's one thing is, like the talking head parts, like when you're walking around talking to yourself, those things, you can trash those all day long. Any other kind of footage, any kind of B-roll footage, it's always good to keep because you never know when you're going to want to utilize it in the long run. So I have lots of footage from like Japan, Malaysia, Calgary, Edmonton, you name it. I have tons and tons of stuff, and it's all there if I need it, just in case. And it helps sometimes, sort of round out what you're doing. It helps round out the vlogs. It helps, create a more, beefy kind of product at the end of the day. And especially with the city that you live in, you can shoot things over and over and over again. Things like Wonderland I've shot numerous times. Sometimes there are slight little bits and changes to the environment around, but generally speaking, nobody's going to notice. So it's always good to keep going. Craftsman says, thanks for the tip. Not a problem. Hey, good to see you, Woodrow. Thanks for tuning in. Woodrow's been streaming Star Wars on, I think, the PlayStation, which is it's a really cool game. The Force, I can't even remember the name of the one. I can see the cover of it now, and I've just gone blank. But super fun game. I forgot how cool using the Force with a character is in that game. A ton of fun. I'm going to have to go back and play it. I've been playing a lot of Virtua Fighter. At some point, I will get around to streaming on Twitch. I don't know when that's going to be. I just kind of, every time I think about it, I just kind of go, I'm just going to play the game. So, and a lot of it is too, is that I just kind of play short games these days as well. So I'll play a game or two of Call of Duty and then I'll be off, continuing the grind. So if you have any questions or anything that you want to discuss, by all means, throw it in the comment. Of course, I'm going to hit this play ad button right now to see sort of what happens there. So based on a complex criteria, some of your viewers may see an ad. Keep on streaming. I think it's really, really weird. I think they should just interject an ad, period. But I guess because they tailor ads to everybody that's here, if people see ads, there'll be different ads. It was The Force Unleashed. That's it. It's such a good game. It's stood the test of time well, I think, The Force Unleashed. It looks really, really good for an older game, which is really, really cool. Again, it just shows you the playability of video games. I still play some games, that I played as a kid, like old arcade machines. So, it's interesting. Any concerts in the pipe that you are going to be shooting? Speaking of which, I will find out here in like 2 seconds if I am. And then that brings me to the other thing that is on my phone here that I forgot that I was going to talk about. So I'll talk about that. I thought I was shooting Matt Good tonight. Doesn't look like I'm doing it because I haven't had an email yet, and it's like 4:30 in the afternoon. So that is a no-go. It's kind of thing. It was like all feast, and then it's famine, and it might be partly my own fault because of what happened with the foreigner contract, where basically they sent me a grab all contract and I adamantly refused to shoot it. So there might be a little blowback on my behalf on that regards, because that happens from time to time. They want to send you a message, but I don't work for so you can have my images for the rest of your life and refuse to compensate me. So there you go. I either got an ad as I was refreshing, or I got an ad when I clicked the button. There you go. So, yeah, so Matt Goods, potentially tonight. There's a lot coming up. I think everything from the Tea Party to there's a bunch of bigger shows like I think like Corey Hart and Backstreet Boys and all sorts of stuff. I mean, I have a big long list to the point that I can't remember what's on my list. So there you go. Matt Good is a great show. Matt is a great guy. Matt was the first guy that I ever shot as a whole. He is a very kind and generous man. We love him dearly and we love his music. So I was hoping to shoot tonight, but you never know. So the other thing that I did want to discuss is if you are, you know, a little short on cash, like everybody else, like myself, sometimes, you know, there are ways to kind of get around. My new thing that I like to do is listen to audiobooks, because I find that when I'm in the car, and I'm driving, whether I'm going to a show, whether I'm going to train, whether I'm going to the gym, or wherever I happen to be going, I can maximize my time, you know, in the vehicle, basically listening to audiobooks. So there is an app called Libby. I don't know if you can see that, the little tiny, it's not gonna, there it is in the bottom corner there, the little purple icon with a book. It's called Libby, and it plays all your audiobooks. If you are in Calgary or have a Calgary membership, and I'm pretty sure this is kind of the weird thing. I think, you know, if you are smart enough, you could probably get a City of Calgary book membership and not live in Calgary whatsoever. You know, and you can utilize, you know, sort of the services. So what you can do is you can actually put holds on audiobooks via the City of Calgary, which I think is really, really good. So what I've been doing is, like I said, I am a fan of Gary Vaynerchuk. So I've been listening to
can and will change. That in and of itself means that you are more adaptable and flexible, and therefore have a better chance of surviving and flourishing in a thank you economy.
So audiobooks are great. They're a bit expensive. Books can be expensive as well. However, you know, all of things like Gary V's books, every one of them are available through the Calgary Public Library. Almost all of them are available via audiobooks. So if you don't have time to sort of sit down and read, and the ironic part is that I think this book is only like 5 minutes and 40 seconds. So it's a short read. I'm not sure how big the book is normally, but it's a short listen. So I've listened to it a couple times. By all means, you can do that. You can get it. They put that on hold. They send you a notification when it's available. You can download it and listen to it. And you can have a whole bunch of books out. So I think it's a really cool thing. It's a great way to save money. It's a great way to get information and not cost you a cent. You know, and again, you know, these books, you know, $30, $40, it's much cheaper to, you know, use it for free. And the fact that you don't even have to step foot in the library itself in order to do it, you can do it all digitally remote through your phone, you know, is a great thing. Hey, good to see you, Pete. What's the difference between Facebook and a politician? And they both want more and more power. Well, you know, as I mentioned earlier, Facebook has really kind of done it today in releasing everybody's passwords and not protecting them. So that's kind of, you know, they're not going to get more power. They're going to lose their power. The fact that everybody's password was open for any Facebook employee to see and wasn't encrypted, like I said, is an egregious sin in my books, especially in this day and age. Facebook really, really screwed up. So again, if you have anything that you want to talk about, by all means, throw it in the comment. More than happy to discuss whatever you guys would like to talk about. That's kind of where I'm at. Again, Twitch Calgary tomorrow at Prairie Dog Brewery, starting at 6 o'clock. I will be there. If you're looking to get the $40 package, I know they still have, they found 4 tickets, so there are 4 tickets available. It was sold out earlier in the week, so if you did miss out, there you go. Can we talk about the election? Is the only running for a month and is exciting. We don't get 3 to 4 months of lawn signs and text messages and posts. Pumped. Yeah, it is election time. They did call for election here. It is going to be a month. It's going to be very, very interesting. Politically here, it's a little bit charged. People are very emotional, and there are, I would say, kind of an extreme left and an extreme right. What I would like to see in this world personally is, all things aside, is that, the left and right move a little bit closer together, and the voices on both extremes get a little more quiet, the way they should be. I just find that, sort of extremists on both sides tend to be the most vocal, and then it gets misconstrued. A small population is yelling really, really loud, so people think that that is essentially, the common belief, and it kind of, marginalizes everybody in between. It's funny. There is a voter's compass that is out there, a tool where you can basically look at a bunch of policies. They'll give you a bunch of policies. You tell them where you stand on it, and they will sort of put you in a grid based on the policies, and they'll tell you which party you are most aligned with their campaign based on your responses, and sort of plot you out. And it's funny, everybody I have seen that has done it has been pretty much dead center. They are right in the middle of everything. So, I mean, it's hard. It's hard for people to make those kind of decisions. It's hard for them to choose, sort of their side, because, nobody really kind of represents that middle of the road kind of party. It's a very interesting shape. I took it, and I'm in no man's land, Scott says, and that's everybody I've kind of seen. Everybody leans a little bit left or a little bit right. There are some people that are very centrist, but it's kind of an interesting time. This election is going to be nasty, I think, in terms of mudslinging, which is, I think, a very, very un-Canadian thing. But sadly, we've been influenced a lot by what goes on south of the border in U.S. politics and how they like to politic. I would like to see Canada go back to a place where we talk about policies and what we want to do, and how we want to go about things, and talk about those things and make those talking points the most important things more than anything else. I would like nothing more to see that. And I would like to see the conversations about policy, not about how this guy's a clown or that guy's a clown or this girl's a clown or anybody's a clown. I just want to talk about policies, and wherever you line up is wherever you line up. But hey, that's it. Apparently I'm a communist, but hey, and there is a Communist Party Canada, there's been one since the beginning of time. They'll just never get elected because they are too far left. And that's kind of the thing. It's, again, the extreme left and extreme right will never, ever, ever get elected. Even the left and right as they currently stand, have to be somewhat close, because the further they move away to the edges, the more marginalized the people will be in terms of their policies. And even if you look at the compass chart for vote, the vote compass, you'll see, like, they're kind of all clumped in a lot of ways. There's not a huge variance between certain parties, which is also very, very interesting to take a look at. But again, it's just a month, and then we get to deal with the federal election, which will be just as exciting. That'll go on for months and months, and then it'll be time to bitch for another 5 years on both the provincial level and both the federal level. So it's that's just the nature of politics, unfortunately. Me myself, I prefer I'm a minority government guy, so I like minority governments. I like, when a company or when a party can't just put a law through or a bill through because they want to. I like that they have to, put something a lot more sort of mediocre and middle of the line, because, otherwise it won't pass. So, I find that those policies are a lot more acceptable at the end of the day. But it's going to be interesting. It's ironic that you mentioned lawn signs as well, Scott, because, it's they're everywhere. I noticed driving home today that there were signs absolutely everywhere, which is crazy. Peter says, I really hope people find out what each party stands for, do their research, and vote. I don't care who you vote for, just exercise your right for vote. People literally die for this right. And I couldn't have said that better myself, Pete. I'm the same way. I really just hope people go out and vote. At the end of the day, the majority is going to rule, and that's just how it kind of all works. And, it's still, whether you like the people in power or not, that's how it works. And, that's, that's just politics for you. But the fact is that you go out and you make your, vote count is probably the most important thing. Brian says minority governments are the best. They are way more balanced that way, way more balanced that way, and I agree 100%. That's why I do like them. I don't like, I don't like monopolies. I don't like long-standing power structures. I don't like any of those kind of things. I think human nature is in such a way when you have power for too long and too much power, that, ultimately power corrupts. And that, at the end of the day, you see things like what happened just prior to this last election and why there was a big switch, because that's what happened. They just completely lost touch because they'd been in power for 30 odd years. So there you go. That's kind of my thing. Again, I hope you guys all go out and vote. I forget the date right off the top of my head, but I'm sure we will talk about that more as the date comes closer. But in the meantime, I will definitely see you all at Twitch Calgary. Do make sure to say hi, shake my hand, have a conversation, have a drink, all that kind of good stuff. I'm pretty pumped. It's going to be a fun time. I haven't been to Prairie Dog Brewery, so I don't know what it's like, but I've heard good things about it. We are voting April 16th. Perfect. Thank you. So April 16th is the time to vote. But until then, tomorrow, Twitch Calgary meetup. It'll be a blast. I hope to see you all there. I will probably sort of kind of vlog. I always say I'm going to vlog like a lot, but I never do because I just feel like that's kind of everybody's time away from the camera. But I may get people to pop on camera, say who you are, what your channel is, and all that kind of stuff for an upcoming vlog or something along those lines. And that's votes on April 16th. So it's just after Poutine Week, when we all go out for Poutine Week, which I'm probably more excited for Poutine Week than I am for the election. That's just kind of how I roll. I'm more excited by food than I am by politics. So there you go. All right, guys. Appreciate you tuning in. Make sure to smash that like button. So smash that like button right now. Give us a like. Give us a like. Give us a like. If you haven't subscribed, please do subscribe. If you want to support us on Patreon, by all means, check that out. I'm going to do something a little bit different, I think, with Patreon in the months to come and see how it goes. I wish there was sushi nearby the brewery. I have no idea because I'm actually not 100% sure where the brewery is, to be honest. But I'm sure there's always sushi to be found and not that far away. Have fun at the event, JD, and have a good weekend all. You do as well, Woodrow, and happy streaming to all you guys. Again, thanks for tuning in. I will see you guys all on Monday. I won't see you. You'll see the new daily, or not the new daily JD. The new Lloyd and JD comes out Monday. I think there is something that involves Mom's Universe in that that podcast. So that'll be out on Monday. So by all means, check it out. Hey, good to see you, Jason. You're just catching us kind of at the end. But the nice thing is that because these get backlogged after the fact, if you do want to see what we were talking about, you can sort of rewind and get the gist of it. And then you can jump through all the boring parts and get caught up. So there you go. But thanks for tuning in. Remember, smash that like button. And until next time, which is probably tomorrow for a lot of you guys in the Calgary area, I will see you at the Twitch Calgary meetup at Prairie Dog Brewery around 6 o'clock. And until next time, see ya.